It's the kind of story that feels like it was ripped straight out of a heist film. Disguises, distraction tactics, priceless masterpieces, decades-long mysteries, and finally, the FBI swooping in to piece it all together. But this isn't Hollywood, it's the real-life saga of Jerry and Rita Alter, a seemingly ordinary couple from rural New Mexico who, after their deaths, were unmasked as the unlikely suspects behind one of the most audacious art heist streaks in US history. For years, their quiet home concealed a Willem de Kooning masterpiece worth over $150 million and other stolen works, until chance encounters and the dogged determination of an amateur sleuth helped the FBI unravel a global puzzle that had gone unsolved for nearly 4 decades. The story begins with an empty frame. In November 1985, visitors to the University of Arizona Museum of Art in Tucson were confronted by a shocking sight: the famous Willem de Kooning painting Woman Ochre, created between 1954 and 1955, and valued today at around $160 million, had been cut from its frame overnight. According to eyewitnesses, on the morning of the theft, a woman distracted a security guard with questions while a man wearing a fake mustache slipped upstairs, used a utility knife to slash the painting from its stretcher, rolled it up, hid it under his coat, and calmly walked out of the museum. The heist took less than 15 minutes. There were no alarms, no forensic evidence, and no suspects. For over 30 years, the trail went cold. The painting resurfaced not in an underground vault or a billionaire's private collection, but behind the bedroom door of Jerry and Rita Alter's modest 3-bedroom house in Cliff, New Mexico. Population under 300, the Alters were retired school teachers. They traveled frequently, wrote children's books, and were known locally as friendly but somewhat reclusive. No one suspected that they had Woman Ochre hanging like a casual decoration behind their door. It wasn't until 2017, after Rita's death, that a local antiques dealer named David Van Auker came to appraise the couple's belongings. He spotted the de Kooning, bought it along with other estate items, and only realized what he had after curious customers pointed out its resemblance to the missing masterpiece. The painting was quickly authenticated and returned to the museum, setting off a media frenzy, but Woman Ochre was just the beginning. In the spring of 1985, months before the Tucson theft, 2 important paintings disappeared from the Harwood Museum of Art in Taos, New Mexico. Victor Higgins's Aspens, circa 1932, and Joseph Henry Sharp's Oklahoma Cheyenne, circa 1915, also known as Indian Boy in Full Dress. Both part of the Taos Society of Artists collection, were snatched in broad daylight. The heist followed a familiar pattern. A woman in a wheelchair distracted the lone attendant by asking for help with the elevator, while a man in a long black coat slipped upstairs, grabbed the 2 paintings, concealed them under his coat, and slipped out the front door. There was no physical evidence, no witnesses who could identify the culprits, and the museum's curator, David Witt, was ironically away at a seminar on museum security when the theft happened. The Taos theft went unsolved for decades, but in 2023, a retired corporate consultant named Lou Schachter took an unexpected interest in the case. Schachter had visited the University of Arizona Museum in 2014 and was captivated by the empty frame of the de Kooning. When the painting was finally found in the Alter's house, his curiosity deepened. He visited the antique store that unknowingly bought the painting and spoke with Van Auker, who made a casual remark that stuck with him: "Just because something isn't on the FBI stolen art database doesn't mean it's not stolen." That line sent Schachter down a rabbit hole that would ultimately change the case. He began combing through old auction catalogs, reverse image searching paintings he'd seen in the 2022 documentary The Thief Collector, which chronicled the Alter story, and cross-referencing them with museum archives. That's when he stumbled upon listings for 2 works that seemed oddly familiar. The paintings were labeled in auction records as Fall Landscape and Indian in a War Bonnet, but to Schachter's trained eye, they were clearly Higgins's Aspens and Sharp's Oklahoma Cheyenne. Both had been purchased at a Scottsdale art auction in 2018 for $93,600 and $52,650 respectively, and both matched works stolen from the Harwood Museum in March 1985, the same year the de Kooning vanished. Schachter sent a carefully worded email to Juniper Laharisi, the executive director of the Harwood Museum. She had grown up in Taos and knew the museum's collection intimately, but was unaware of the gap in its holdings. Her immediate reaction was to act. She She gathered police reports, curator notes, Justice Department documents, and photographs, and delivered the evidence to the FBI in early 2024. For the first time, the Taos heist was linked directly to the Alters. Jerry and Rita Alter weren't your typical suspects. Both were school teachers with modest salaries, but they lived like globetrotting adventurers. According to their travel agent, they were adrenaline junkies who loved to fly to one country and then pay smugglers to sneak them across borders into another. They visited Africa, Europe, South America, and Asia, often on whirlwind itineraries. Their family found travel journals, photographs, and receipts documenting lavish trips that didn't quite align with their income, and in multiple instances, their whereabouts coincided suspiciously with the timing of high-profile art thefts in the 1980s. The FBI's involvement brought professional muscle to the case. Special Agent Susan Garst, who specializes in art crimes, took the lead. Using Schachter's research as a springboard, Garst traced the auction records back to the anonymous buyers who had purchased the works in good faith and were unaware of their origins. In 2025, both paintings were voluntarily relinquished to the FBI and returned to the Harwood Museum. The homecoming was emotional. At a ceremony in June 2025, museum staff unveiled the paintings as part of a special exhibition titled The Return of Taos Treasures. For decades, the museum had lived with an invisible absence, blank spaces in its collection that told a story of theft and mystery. Now Aspens and Oklahoma Cheyenne hang once again on the walls where they belonged. A testament to both the persistence of law enforcement and the curiosity of a single amateur sleuth who refused to let a mystery go. As for Jerry and Rita Alter, their story remains partly unsolved. They were never charged. Jerry died in 2012, Rita in 2017, and no definitive evidence has tied them to every suspected theft, but the patterns are striking. The wheelchair distraction, the overcoat, their travel records aligning with major art heists, and then of course the crown jewel, the Kooning hanging casually behind a bedroom door for decades. FBI officials have hinted that they believe the couple may have been responsible for other, as yet unidentified art thefts, possibly selling or trading stolen works during their travels. A photograph featured in The Thief Collector captures Jerry playing the clarinet at home, framed by stolen treasures. Aspens on one side, Oklahoma Cheyenne on the other. It's a surreal image, a mild-mannered teacher performing music surrounded by artworks worth millions as if they were family portraits. Their friends and neighbors never suspected a thing. The Alters' motives are still debated. Were they financially driven, using the stolen paintings to fund their escapades? Or were they, as their travel agent suggested, thrill seekers who got a rush out of outsmarting museums and living with forbidden art? Their heists lacked the sophistication of organized crime rings. No elaborate getaways, no resale through the black market. Instead, their crimes were almost quaint in their simplicity, distraction, speed, and audacity. What's remarkable is how close these crimes came to vanishing into history. If not for Schachter's road trip and his curiosity, the paintings might still hang anonymously in someone's living room or sit forgotten in storage. His investigation reads like a classic detective story. Empty frames, old newspaper clippings, catalog records, email exchanges, and finally, a quiet handoff between FBI agents and a small-town museum. The FBI's art crime team has since emphasized that it's still stolen no matter how many years pass. Even after 4 decades, their work doesn't end when a painting reappears. There are provenance records to rebuild, ownership claims to resolve, and public trust to restore. The Harwood thefts are now officially closed, as the Alters are deceased. But for people like Schachter, and for art historians who suspect the Alters' reach extended further, the hunt isn't over. This bizarre tale of thrill-seeking teachers turned suspected art thieves underscores how some of the biggest art mysteries aren't always the work of shadowy mafias or slick cat burglars rappelling from skylights. Sometimes they're orchestrated by the couple you'd never look twice at, the ones sitting quietly at the back of the tour group, the ones asking innocent questions at the elevator, the ones who walk out the front door unnoticed, carrying a fortune under a coat. 40 years after the first heist, the FBI has finally closed the loop on one of America's strangest art mysteries. The Kooning is back in Tucson. The Taos paintings are back in their gallery, and somewhere out there, hidden in auction records, attics, or private collections, there may be more clues, more pieces of the Alters' puzzle waiting to surface.